Hello, I'm Deacon Sabatino Carnazzo of the Institute of Catholic Culture. I'm blessed to be here with you today on the second day of the Lenten season to participate in the uCatholic Lenten campaign. Today, the Church places before us here at the beginning of our Lenten journey two biblical texts, two readings for us to meditate on. The first from the book of Deuteronomy and the second from the Gospel of Luke. In the book of Deuteronomy, we hear those haunting words of our Lord, which is an invitation at the same time, a warning. He says, "Today I call heaven and earth to witness against you. I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life then, that you and your descendants may live." To understand this text, we must understand it in its proper historical context. Israel has just spent 40 years of wandering in the desert, and they are encamped in the plains of Moab, about to cross the Jordan River to enter into the promised land, the land flowing with milk and honey, the land in which God will dwell in the midst of his people again. But here in the plains of Moab, Israel once again succumbs to the temptations of the devil. They fall into sin in the worship of Baal. And here Moses writes Deuteronomy, literally translated the second law, to explain once again to God's people the two ways, the way of life and the way of death. Before them, these two roads stand, and Israel must make a decision. The world today, our secular world, would like to present us with a different picture. Not two roads, the road to life and the road to death, but they would like to present us with a large gray moral road in which most of what we do is neither good nor bad. This is not the way of the church. This is not the way of God. In fact, one of the earliest post-biblical texts that we have, catechetical texts, the Didache, written to us in the 1st century, tells us, quoting the book of Deuteronomy, there are two ways, one of life and one of death, and a great difference exists between the two. Israel stands on the edge of the Jordan River with a choice, either to walk away from God, to return to Egypt, and to return to slavery. Not so much slavery to Egypt, but slavery to sin. And here also is the road to communion with God. But notice that that road toward the promised land has in its way the Jordan River, a symbol for us of baptism. And baptism, as we know from our Lord's words, are a symbol of his passion, death, and eventual resurrection. Israel must undergo their own baptism, if you will, to set aside their former life and to enter into communion with God. The church sets this vision of paradise before us and this invitation to the two ways on this, the first full day of the Lenten journey. And in the Gospel of Luke, we hear our Lord's words, "The Son of Man must suffer greatly and be rejected by the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed, and on the third day raised." And then he said to all, and he says to us, "If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." Before us are the 40 days of the great fast. Before us is that invitation to that road to life. And off in the distance, 40 days from now, flickering in the distance is the light of the resurrection toward which we are journeying. But between this day and the day of the resurrection is the day of the cross. None of us will rise from the dead who have not first died with Christ. We are challenged today then to make a choice. The road to death, the road to self-satisfaction, the road inward toward me versus the road toward paradise and the road toward the resurrection. But again, the Jordan River stands as a symbol of the cross. No one will rise from the dead who has not come to the cross of Christ on Good Friday and has said with the Lord, "Not my will, but thy will be done. Not what I want, but what you want." No one will rise from the dead on Easter morning who has not willingly ascended the cross with Christ, denying our former life and giving our life to the only one who has ever walked out of the tomb. May God bless you over these 40 days, this journey of the great fast, and may you also behold the third day resurrection of Christ our God.